But if we move on to goalkeepers, this is where I think things get really interesting. Because, of course, there's a certain goalkeeper out in Sheffield who is blowing David De Gea out of the water currently. But is he going to continue to do that if he comes to United? So what I'm here to ask you is, we're going to go in reverse order this time, is Theo, David De Gea or Dean Henderson?
Why not have both?
Oh.
I think it'd be too much to say to Henderson like straight away. Your De Gea's gone. Henderson, you're number one. I've read a few quotes from him where he said stuff like he doesn't want to just play a couple of games for Man United and then be like, oh yeah, I've made it. He wants to play like 50 games, 100 games, and then say, yeah, like I'm the man. So, and I don't see why, when you have a goalkeeper, obviously he hasn't been as good these last 2 seasons as he was before, but he's definitely like top 5 in the world. De Gea, why would you get rid of him and not have like Henderson, one of the up and coming young English goalkeepers? Why not have him learn from De Gea for a season or two? So and then we obviously got Romero as well. He's probably like the best backup in the world. So yeah, like I think it's too soon for Henderson to be number one. But I think he's definitely got a future at Man United, especially because I love reading the stuff that he says. He doesn't seem like unhappy to be out on loan. He doesn't feel like he's being pushed aside. Like he understands it's part of like learning and stuff, and he's ready. And I'm sure he understands that he's got like bloody David De Gea in front of him. So I'm sure he's ready to wait. And so yeah, I'd have De Gea number one definitely next season. And I think there's rumours of him Henderson going back on loan to Sheffield United, which I wouldn't blame him really. But definitely De Gea for number one next season.
Yeah, that's perfectly understandable of him learning from such a talented goalkeeper, someone we've seen who has the potential to be the best in the world at his peak. And Ashley, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I actually agree with Theo there. As good as Sergio Romero was as a backup keeper, he did turn 33 in February, and obviously keepers do have a longer lifespan. But I think when you turn to 33, you start going downhill then. And Dean Henderson's coming up at the moment. So I think United's best option is to probably let Sergio Romero go and bring back Dean Henderson from Sheffield United. I think doing this will give Dean Henderson the experience he needs alongside David De Gea, training with David De Gea, such a big keeper, and being at a big club, because he's been at Sheffield United for the last season. I think him just being at United will give him that experience next to De Gea, and even Nathan Bishop would probably work off him as well. So Nathan Bishop's up and coming keeper. But yeah, I think giving Dean Henderson the number 2 spot will also push David De Gea to perform better, because obviously this season he's not been performing very good. He's been declining this season, but I think just having Dean Henderson behind him, who's had such a good season, will just push David De Gea to perform that a little bit better. We saw it with Luke Shaw and Brandon Williams last season. Brandon Williams was trying to take over Luke Shaw's spot, and Luke Shaw performed better in order to get back into the team. And I think even if Dean Henderson does overtake De Gea as a number 1 keeper, it'll be a huge confidence boost for Dean Henderson. It'll keep him at that level, and I think bringing him back will bring out the best in both the goalkeepers that we have.
I just wanted to say quickly, just from what we were saying with like having 2 goalkeepers. If you remember, like in 2014 when Mourinho went back to Chelsea, he had Cech and Courtois in the same season, and Courtois had already like played in that Champions League final, and Cech had been like number 1 the season before, so obviously much more experienced than Henderson, and they were both there fighting. Obviously Courtois was number 1, but still having Cech as like someone to learn from. Like obviously it hasn't gone well for him recently, but at the time he was one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League. So I think that's an example of like how having 2 goalkeepers isn't always a bad thing.
Yeah, I agree with both of you, except I'm not going to be as nice to David and give him a season or two. I feel like he's at his peak of his goalkeeping abilities and also the peak of his value currently. I feel like right now is when you'll get the most money for him, especially from teams like Bayern Munich, where even though you see Manuel Neuer's talents, you see them also dipping. So it's very realistic that you could see Bayern jump in at a David De Gea for a lot of money. But I would swap. My suggestion would be is bring both of them back, keep them both in the team, and let them fight until January. And then, depending who performs better, and keep Romero too, because if Henderson is performing, but David De Gea is still playing, still top goalkeeper in the world, then Sheffield United probably won't say no to taking him back. A lot of teams, for example, Everton might say, you know what, let's loan in Dean Henderson until the end of the season to push Pickford. You could see a team like let's try to think, maybe a newly promoted team, maybe if Leeds come up, Leeds say that's our keeper for the rest of the season. If Kiko Casilla doesn't perform, there's so many options, and I feel like, but they need to try capitalise on De Gea while they can get the bank for him. But if he still performs as a top keeper in the world, you can't get rid of that. It's irreplaceable, and I think United may pay off to pay the risk of Dean Henderson, who behind a lesser defense with overlapping centre backs has proven he can save the big shots. And I would say Harry Maguire and Lindelof are better than John Egan and stuff like that. Even if John Egan's a talented player, So yeah, that's my opinion. And last but not least, we have everyone's favourite Baldy, Harvey. What's your opinion?
I was just thinking about what Theo said earlier about Dean Henderson wanting to be, the big shot, the man. I think he said, if he was to go out on loan again next season to Sheffield, they've not had a bad season this season. They just came up last season, and then are they sat 7th at the moment, 6th, 7th in the table?
I think they're just below us, and if they win their game in hand, they go above us in 5th.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's perfect proof of why, if he wants to get to this sort of mantle at Man United, where they usually have this amazing keeper throughout history, if he wants to be that keeper, I think it would be wise for him to give De Gea the next season or two. Maybe let him play out the rest of his contract, the rest of his prime years, if you will, at the club. I think it's obvious to see that De Gea has passed his best. If not, he's already levelled off, because over the last few seasons, we've seen more and more mistakes leading to goals, maybe a lack of confidence. We saw him in the World Cup when Ronaldo put a ball straight through him. Shouldn't have scored from outside the box, not at all. But weak hands, and that cost them the win in that game. But I do think Dean Henderson, if he is wanting this number one role at Man United, that he gives De Gea the next season or two, stays on loan at Sheffield, like Callum said, maybe at Leeds, at a newly promoted team, or it can be anybody for that matter. But if he wants that number one, he gives the time to De Gea, and he goes out on loan and waits his turn. But I do think that somewhere in the future he will get that role eventually, definitely.
Yeah, and something that just came to my mind when we were talking there. If you look at Man United's history with goalkeepers, it seems like their new goalkeepers seem to have one breakout season, and then just, Man United have always seemed to be quite ruthless with goalkeepers. You saw when Peter Schmeichel started to show a tiny bit of decline, kicked him out, quickly bringing Edwin van der Sar from Fulham. I believe it was Fulham or Juventus at the time. I know he did play for Fulham, but I don't know which order. You saw as soon as Van der Sar started to dip off a little bit, you're too old, retirement, here comes David De Gea. And maybe is this the sign that David De Gea starts to slip a bit? They've got this new young goalkeeper in Dean Henderson who, could come in and bang, steal his spot again. And kind of like, you couldn't really blame United for doing it, because every time we've seen it happen, it's been massive success. The new keeper's come in, stuck their spot. De Gea's been here for around 7-8 years now. It's not like he hasn't been here a long time. He's stamped his spot in Man United history by probably, he realistically has probably brought you up 2 or 3 spots in at the table multiple times.
the amount of times I've been at games and he's just like, I've just thought, how, like it was Van Gaal's first season. I had a season ticket, and the amount of times, I think it was like, it was Stoke in the last minute, and he saved like 2 just ridiculous saves. And there was that game when we beat Liverpool 3-0, and but like they had more possession, and De Gea still got man of the match when we won 3-0. Like he's just ridiculous. Like so yeah, he's definitely in Man United fans' hearts, and
Yeah, he really
you
is.
definitely see him.
He was the sort of goalkeeper, in my opinion anyway, the one that started popularising, you saw, kind of that each big goalkeeper of a generation has their thing, Peter Schmeichel had his star jump save, and stuff like that. If you have a look at it, David De Gea seems the one keeper to me, or anyway, if I think of a keeper who saves the ball with their feet a lot more than they should, David De Gea is incredible. He's probably, you could argue, just as good at saving the ball with his feet as he is with his hands.
I can remember against Real Madrid in the Champions League. I think it was 2013.
Oh, I know what one you're thinking of.
Yeah, I think I can't remember who shot, but it was like hand height, and when he's kicked it out of the air, like how do you do that?
He did one with his feet in that game. I think it was Contral.
Yeah,
it was
it was
spilling
Fabio
into the
Contral,
bottom, and he like stuck his foot out, and like actually it might be his hand. I don't know, but it was like like literally like just. Yeah, I still think he's going to stick around for a bit.
And yeah, that's perfectly understandable. Obviously, a lot of people still see De Gea's talents. I think everyone still sees De Gea's talents, but a lot of people are getting excited by the prospect of Dean Henderson and looking at Man United's past.